Are you ready for pain? Are you ready for suffering? If the answer is yes, then you're ready.
Little Mermaid is black. There's 3 reasons why a black mermaid makes more sense than a white one. Number 1. Are mermaids even real? When was the last time you saw a real life mermaid? Then what are you complaining about? I mean, I don't see you hating on Lord of the Rings because they have black elves. Oh wait, y'all crying about that too. Number 2. So, it's a story about a mermaid who lives in the ocean, and her lifelong goal is to get out of the water and be on land. Okay, if that's not black, I don't know what is. Y'all white people love the water too much for your own good. I mean, how many shark attacks do y'all need before y'all realize the ocean don't play? Number 3. So, let me get this straight. The Little Mermaid sees a sinking ship. So instead of minding her own business, she swims towards danger. Okay, that's pretty white. Y'all got me there. Having a black mermaid makes sense. Another thing that makes sense is for you to follow me.
Hi, I don't mean to jump in the middle of y'all's little flame war in my comment, but I thought I would go ahead and address this, because you know what? Right on the money, guys. It's such a simple equation, right? When you cast a white person to play a POC character, what you're doing is simultaneously reducing representation, adding to the sea of white people that are in all of film for all of time, and taking work away from POC actors. And on the flip side, when you cast a black or POC person in a white role, you're doing the same thing because there's one less white character, though I guess holistically, white people do still have just a shit ton of representation. The one character doesn't really affect it, and as such, white actors aren't really hurting for roles right now. And actually, you're still reducing representation. So, could this be flawed logic? Blackwashing doesn't exist. I swear to God, the people who give this shit are the same ones who always come out with the, oh, why would you recast a character with a POC actor when you can just make a new one? Newsflash, Chad, because you'd probably cast that new character as white too.
I need everyone saying, well, Ariel is black now, so why do you care now that Nani is white? To realize that is not the fucking gotcha moment that you think it is. Because one, Ariel is a mermaid, and they don't have a real world race or ethnicity or culture. That's a part of the fucking Little Mermaid. 2, you realize darker skinned people have been systemically underrepresented in media for longer than your entire life. The reason you should care when they cast lighter skinned actors with more Eurocentric features than the original is because it's so rare for that kind of character to even fucking exist in the first place. All you little Redditors have been fed this logic saying, well, why should it even matter what color they are? It should just be who's the most talented. Yes, that would be cool in perfect awesome world. That's what Hamilton is like. And I fucking hate Hamilton, but at least everyone in it is great. But most of the people in charge of making those decisions have not been playing by that perfect rule set this whole fucking time. So you should be more mad that the system has always been biased towards light-skinned people. Even more for women when you realize almost any time there's a role for a pretty girl, they'll pick the lighter person. But when you suddenly shift goalposts and say, yeah, but there are lighter-skinned Hawaiians too, don't they exist? Yes, they exist, and yes, they deserve representation too. But if we allow Hollywood that pass of saying, well, people come in all different shades and colors, so I guess I'll let it slide. We literally know, historically, that they will pick the lighter shades fucking a lot more often! Also, if you're gonna shift goalposts again and say, well, maybe she's just a more amazing, best talented actress than all the darker skinned ones, you need to realize that's fucking ridiculous. You're fucking talking insane now. Also, I don't see you complaining that King Triton is a Spanish guy now. That is not fucking Danish or Greek.
I hate when companies decide to blackwash characters.
Blackwashing is not a thing. I know there are people who are trying to make it a thing by saying it over and over and over again, but it's still not a thing. Maybe if you say it enough times, you'll get your own official definition and not be redirected, but even then, it will not be the thing you think it is. Whitewashing is racism. The intent of whitewashing was to tell people of color that they weren't even good enough to play their own people. The effect of whitewashing was to further minimize the presence of people of color in cinema to the point where they didn't exist or were practically erased. The practice came to be called whitewashing because whitewashing was already a term that described covering something over with white paint so that you couldn't see what was underneath. The consequence of whitewashing was to dilute the presence of people of color to the point where they were nothing more than a costume. To call this blackwashing is to create a sense of false equivalency, because the 100 years of white representation in Hollywood that precedes these people isn't going anywhere anytime soon. And even with this much diversity, it's still a fraction of the white representation in Hollywood today, much less in all of fiction. And can we please stop belittling Yara by calling her casting pander, as if the only thing she has to bring to the table is her blackness? As if the only thing this young woman has to bring to audiences is the color of her skin? As if her presence isn't justified by the fact that she's a well-known actress of this generation. And I know a bunch of you are going to come at me saying, we don't need another live-action Disney reboot, as if that was even the point of this conversation. But after 100 years of Peter Pan being adapted in stage, cinema, cartoons, television, suddenly enough is enough now. It is not pandering to hire a person who knows how to do the job. And it isn't blackwashing because it isn't going to dilute 100 years of cinema that fought to prevent this from ever happening.
I've been called a blackwasher countless of times, so I'm here to explain why blackwashing does not exist. Let's look into the meaning of black. Of the very darkest colour, the opposite of white. Now let's look into the meaning of white. Of the colour of milk or fresh snow, the opposite of black. The meaning of washing is the action of washing oneself or laundering clothes, bedline, etc. So now we know the meaning behind these three words. It's important to apply the words and their meanings to this example that I'm giving you. I want you to imagine a nice clean white window. It's sparkling and everything, you can see your reflection in it. Now, imagine we put on some really dirty, dark, horrible, musty, dusty mud on it. Now your once clean white window is now dark and muddy. So now, are you going to say that your window is being washed? How on earth are you going to wash something that seems to be clean and white with something that seems to be dark and grime? It doesn't make sense, does it? You see, whitewashing became popular in the late 1900s. It was when white people decided to wash away the skin tones of people of colour, typically with cartoon characters or giving credits to a white person for a person of colour's invention. So if whitewashing is to wash over a dark-skinned person, and blackwashing is supposed to be the opposite of whitewashing, how are we going to wash something that's white and clean with something that seems to be dark and grime? Just like in the window example I gave you, we can't, it's impossible, it does not make sense. The word blackwashing was made by white supremacists who started to kick and cry when they realised we were making black characters for ourselves. So no, blackwashing does not exist. I'm sorry to disappoint you white people, but making white characters black is not oppressing you, you are not the victims. And hey, blame the white people in the media industry, not us. If they were the ones who represented us better, you wouldn't be seeing what we're doing.
Okay, so I'm going to be replying to this comment, and this is a legitimate question. She's not throwing shade or anything. How come people can make white characters black, but not black characters white? In this case, I believe she's referring to the princesses, because that's all the characters I have drawn so far. But basically, it would be racist to turn Tiana into a white woman because she's based off a real-life person. Tiana is based off of Leah Chase. Leah Chase had a restaurant in New Orleans, and she was basically known as the queen of Creole cuisine. So that is based off a true story. So you cannot change the race of a character that is based off a true story. And I personally don't change the race of people of color or characters that have like a culture behind them. Like, say for instance, I'm gonna start with the one that people think is not a culture, but it is. Merida. I wouldn't change the race of Merida because she's Scottish. They have a culture that would be offensive. I wouldn't change the race of Moana. I believe she's Polynesian. They have culture, and then her story is kind of rooted in her culture, so I would not change her race. This was my favorite princess before Tiana came out for the longest time. Mulan. I am not going to change her. She's Chinese. That would be offensive to her storyline. It takes place in China. Come on, guys. No. Jasmine is Arab. I wouldn't change her either. and it has culture, you know, so we're not gonna change her. And people swear I was changing Pocahontas, but that is like the number one I will not change. They have less representation than we do, even though her story is, that is not the real story of Pocahontas. I'll just say that. Okay, let's get to the nitty gritty. People were mad that I changed the race of Ariel. Ariel is a fish, a literal fish. Changing her race is not affecting the storyline in any way. She doesn't have a culture. She's a fish. Snow White is another one. She's just a 14-year-old girl that lived with 7 dwarves. She doesn't have a culture. It doesn't affect the storyline. Why are you mad? They were mad I changed Rapunzel. She's a fictional character with long hair who is trapped in a tower. She doesn't have a culture. Sorry, she doesn't have a culture. It's not offensive to change her race. I'll see where I'm going with this. Cinderella was just a girl that lived with her evil stepmother and stepsisters, and they hated her and they made her clean all the time. There's not a culture behind that. Sounds like a black woman to me. It's not offensive to change her race. I mean, it's offensive to some people apparently, but you know, not a big deal. Y'all see where I'm going with this. Y'all have like a lot of princesses and I'm not going to go through them all, so I hope that helps.
The original Cinderella has strawberry blonde hair and blue eyes. Lily James does not have that. Also, the original Cinderella is French, while Lily James is English. No one complained about that. The original Belle is also French and has hazel eyes and no freckles. Emma Watson is English, has brown eyes, and has freckles. Also, they auto-tuned the crap out of her, which some people complained about, but everyone got over it and did not extremely dislike all of the videos of the trailers, scenes, content, any of that. People liked the casting of this generally. Besides the hair, Elle Fanning does not look like the original Aurora. Also, again, she's French, she's not. No one complained about that, and no one complained that none of the dresses looked like the original dress. No one. The original Alice has yellow blonde hair and blue eyes. Mia has dirty blonde hair and brown eyes. No one complained about that. These two don't even look the same. No one complained about it. Her hair wasn't cut in the movie like she did in here. No one complained about it. And while we can all agree that this was not a good live action of this film, this did not get even half of the hate that The Little Mermaid is getting right now, and the movie isn't even released. Maybe 1 or 2 people complained that her hair didn't look like the original Jasmine's, but again, no backlash, no extreme like to dislike ratio, no hate. But because Disney decided to cast a black woman to play Ariel in the live action adaptation, which by the way, just because it's a live action adaptation doesn't mean this goes away. This is still going to be around, and if you want your red-headed Ariel, then go watch Once Upon a Time. So much backlash, so much hate, so much racism. Guys, the movie has nothing to do with her hair color. It has nothing to do with her skin color. She is a mermaid. She's not real. Her race has nothing to do with the story. The only thing that matters is that she is a singer, she wants to go to the human world, and she's a mermaid from Atlantica, a fictional kingdom. The reason why she has red hair and white skin is because this movie was made in 1989, where back then it was very common for Disney and other companies to make every single character of theirs white. Because can you name a non-white character from The Little Mermaid? And no, Sebastian does not count. I'll give you a minute. In fact, think of any movie from The Little Mermaid and before. Think of any non-white character from there that isn't an animal and where the depiction of that character wasn't grossly stereotyped. I'll give you a minute. The point that I'm making is that all of those other characters and their live action counterparts don't look the same. And yet no one complained about them. No one scrutinized them. No one hate rated those videos, those trailers, all of that. But we're having an issue with this because she's black. People want to focus on the things that do not matter in this film, like her hair color and her skin color. Like if that's all you got out of Ariel is that she has red hair and that she has white skin, then you completely miss the entire point of the story. Because people are going to bring this up. This makes sense because Mulan was a real person in Chinese history. Makes sense to cast a Chinese woman to play her. This also makes sense because Jasmine comes from a book that depicts Middle Eastern and South Asian cultures. Makes sense to cast them. This goes along with Pocahontas, Princess and the Frog, Moana, Encanto, Coco, any other cultural film where the culture is the central point of the movie, and also movies like Pocahontas and The Princess and the Frog where they're also based off of real people. It makes sense to cast people who look and share the same culture and life experiences of those people. I'm sorry to break it to you, but Snow White, Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, Little Mermaid, all of these other white princesses, with the exception of Merida and maybe Frozen, their race does not matter in the movie. Their culture does not matter in the movie. It is not cultural films. They are not cultural films. They are not films where their physical appearance, and also maybe the exception of Rapunzel, but like, again, does not matter what they look like. I'm sorry. I hate to break it to you, but that's why it's okay that they casted Ariel as black and also Tinkerbell as black, because their physical appearance does not matter, and they were made during a time where Disney just made everyone white. I know these are just Disney films, but still, I think this is very reflective of our society and how racism is still very much alive and present. Just go look at the YouTube videos of the Little Mermaid trailers and look at the like and dislike ratio and look at the comments. They are disgusting. Never seen anything like this in any other Disney live action film. I understand that maybe not everyone likes that Disney's making these live action films, but the amount of hate that Halle Bailey and the Little Mermaid is getting is just, at this point, it's just ridiculous. And you guys are just extremely racist. With that being said, I'm probably going to go watch the film like 5 times because fuck you guys.